I was suffering from toxic stress. The type of physical and emotional abuse I was exposed to has been proven to have a range of side effects on young children because in our early years, the brain grows and develops so rapidly. If during those years your father is an evil motherfucker, hell-bent on destroying everyone in his house, stress spikes. And when those spikes occur frequently enough, you can draw a line across the peaks. That's your new baseline. It puts kids in a permanent fight or flight mode. Fight or flight can be a great tool when you're in danger because it amps you up to battle through or sprint from trouble. But it's no way to live. I'm not the type of guy to try to explain everything with science, but facts are facts. I've read that some pediatricians believe toxic stress does more damage to kids than polio or meningitis. I know firsthand that it leads to learning disabilities and social anxiety because according to doctors, it limits language development and memory, which makes it difficult for even the most gifted student to recall what they have already learned. Looking at the long game, when kids like me grow up, they face an increased risk for clinical depression, heart disease, obesity, and cancer, not to mention smoking, alcoholism, and drug abuse. Those raised in abusive households have an increased probability of being arrested as a juvenile by 53%. Their odds of committing a violent crime as an adult are increased by 38%. I was the poster child of that generic term we've all heard before, at-risk youth. My mother wasn't the one raising a thug. Look at the numbers and it's clear. If anyone put me on a destructive path, it was Goggins. I didn't stay in group therapy for long, and I didn't take Ritalin either. My mom picked me up after my second session, and I sat in the front seat of her car wearing a 1,000-yard stare. "Mom, I'm not going back," I said. "These boys are crazy." She agreed, but I was still a damaged kid. And while there are proven interventions on the best way to teach and manage kids who suffer from toxic stress, it's fair to say that Ms. D didn't get those memos. I can't blame her for her own ignorance. The science wasn't nearly as clear in the 1980s as it is now. All I know is Sister Catherine toiled in the trenches with the same malformed kid that Ms. D dealt with. But she maintained high expectations and didn't let her frustration overwhelm her. She had the mindset of, look, everybody learns in a different way, and we're going to figure out how you learn. She deduced that I needed repetition, that I needed to solve the same problems over and over again in a different way to learn. And she knew that took time. Ms. D was all about productivity. She was saying, keep up or get out. Meanwhile, I felt backed into a corner. I knew that if I didn't show some improvement, I would eventually be shipped out to that special black hole for good, so I found a solution. I started cheating my ass off. Studying was hard, especially with my fucked up brain. But I was a damn good cheat. I copied friends' homework and scanned my neighbor's work during tests. I even copied the answers on the standardized tests that didn't have any impact on my grades. It worked. My rising test scores placated Ms. D, and my mother stopped getting calls from school. I thought I'd solved a problem when really I was creating new ones by taking the path of least resistance. My coping mechanism confirmed that I would never learn squat at school and that I would never catch up, which pushed me closer toward a flunked-out fate. The saving grace of those early years in Brazil was that I was way too young to understand the kind of prejudice I would soon face in my new hick hometown. Whenever you're the only one of your kind, you're in danger of being pushed toward the margins, suspected and disregarded, bullied and mistreated by ignorant people. That's just the way life is, especially back then. And by the time that reality kicked me in the throat, my life had already become a full-fledged f*** you fortune cookie. Whenever I cracked it open, I got the same message. You were born to fail. 5 weeks after Christmas, it had become obvious that my whole life had changed. The unexpected attention and notoriety that came with and followed the release of Can't Hurt Me was as humbling as it was disorienting. After decades of grinding in the shadows outside the public eye, I was now spotlit. I'd always felt most at home in the margins. During my military career, I'd go on my longest runs and rucks before anyone else woke up. While others were relaxing or partying after a hard day or week of work, I stayed in to study my dive tables, pack and repack my parachute, or run and grind in the gym deep into the night. Everything I did on my own time was for my own personal fulfillment and growth. I damn sure didn't do it for attention. Yet I was often misunderstood. I was carrying a boulder as big as the world on my back, just trying to get to the other side of the darkness that was chasing me down. I was terrified that if I stopped getting better, if I gave myself a break from any of it, all my insecurities and innate laziness would get the drop on me again. Anytime I felt physically exhausted or mentally zapped, I pictured that 24-year-old fat ass glaring at me with a big smile on his face. A smile that said, "I'm still here, bitch. I am who you really are, and I'm not going anywhere."